Hi, this is part 2 of The Laughing Muslim. I told the Muslim that I felt that when Jesus cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" That was due to the fact that I feel he took on the sin of doubt. Because I think, to me, doubt is the worst of sins, because it opens the door to all sins. I mean, if you doubt that God is God, then you feel like you're wasting your time. You don't want to be a Christian. You'll want to try to live it up before you die if you have your doubts. To me, it's the major problem. So when Jesus on the cross cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" I think that's when he took on the sin of doubt. Because God turns his back on Jesus because he sees all these sins on him, and that would be including the sin of doubt. And that's when Jesus cries out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" And with that gets this Muslim to say, he says this: "I would like to see a biblical text for the claim of yours that doubt is a sin. You see, you interpret the cross according to your own understanding. That is not valid. If I interpret the events of World War II according to my understanding, would it be historically correct? No. That is why we have history books. So in regards to the cross, we have the Bible. Why would you interpret the cross event when we have the Bible as an authority?" And with that I say, from my study of sin is, quote, missing the mark. When you have unbelief, it opens the door to all sins. To me, unbelief, or doubt, is the king of sins. Is not being an unbeliever the worst thing to Allah, next to believing Allah has a son? By the way, again, when Jesus went to the cross, he took on all the sins of the world, which is why God turned away from him. One of those sins should have been the sin of unbelief, I feel. And with unbelief, it seems natural Jesus would shout, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Again, you are missing the point. You are missing the point. We are talking of the cross event, which you are claiming to be historically true. And what is your source for such a story? The Bible. So you quote verses from the Bible to support your claim. Do not tell me what you believe or think or understand, because it cannot be verified. Let's talk biblically here, so that we can check the scriptural texts. Now you seem confused in your statement. Do you believe that Jesus is the God? Right? So why would he? Well, I believe Jesus went to the cross to die for the sins of the world because there are passages in the Torah and other writings handed down, unquote, that make no sense if Jesus didn't go to the cross. Would you like me to present them? You seem to forget that the Torah was written hundreds of years before the books of the New Testament. So, when writers of the New Testament wrote about the events in the life of Jesus, they looked through the pages of the Old Testament to prove their case. And that is not amazing. They wanted to align their writings to the Old Testament so much that they had to distort their own versions of the stories. And when you check those verses, they tell a very different plot and story. Oh, I'm sure you can believe that. However, when I bring up the passages from the Torah and the, quote, previous scriptures to Jews of why I'm a person in the book, of the Christian kind, guess what? They don't become Christians. Yet they have no explanation for those passages that increase one's faith in Christianity. By the way, the meaning of the Torah hasn't changed since at least the time of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Can you explain those passages that Jews can't, that seem to something's got screwed up there, but I say, Jesus going to the cross for the sins of the world. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll point them out. So, and remember that according to the Qur'an, that the Torah, the previous revelation, the Bible, is supposed to be all his unchanging words. Or do you think the Qur'an is a lie when it says all his words can't be changed? And with that, it gets him laughing big time. That's why I call him the laughing Muslim. He says, ha ha ha, don't make stupid claim. Show us your proof. Proof of what? Really? Then bring the verse on. Let's discuss them one by one. I say, oh, according to the Qur'an, or as it calls itself, the clear signs handed down, none of Allah's words, which would include the Bible, can ever be altered. That's Surah 6, verse 34 of the Qur'an, which calls itself the, quote, clear signs handed down. It says, quote, this is what it says, messengers indeed have we denied before thee, and they were patient under the denial and the persecution till our succor, that's help, reached them. There is none to alter the decisions of Allah. Already there hath reached thee somewhat of the tidings. According, and then it said, yeah, did you get that? Tidings of the messengers we sent before. According to Surah 6, verse 115 of the Qur'an, which calls itself the, quote, clear signs handed down, it says, perfected is the word of thy Lord in truth and justice. There is naught that can change his words. He is the hearer, the knower. According to Surah 10, verse 64 of the Qur'an, which again calls itself the clear signs handed down, it says this, theirs are good tidings. Well, it says this. Let me bring this down. It says, theirs are good tidings in the life of the world in the hereafter. There is no change in the words of Allah. That is the supreme triumph. Again, there's no change in the words of Allah. That is the supreme triumph. And with that, the Muslim responds with, please do us a favor. Study and read the verses in context, and do not spew your hatred and ignorance here. You are doing a great disservice to your Christian faith. Do not just copy and follow what Islam haters are telling you. Ask question. Read. You mean seeking knowledge for 1 hour, which is better than 70 years of putting your patootie up in the air? Actually, Muhammad said, which is better than 70 years of prayer. Better to put up your. Then he says, better to put up patut in the air than to be cannibal and practice an cannibalistic ritual of eating Jesus, human flesh, and drinking his human blood just to be saved. Gee, now that's telling. I guess you believe things are literal, true? If so, does the sun, when it sets, quote, prostrate under the throne of Allah before asking permission to rise again? Does Satan sleep in your nose at night, making it so when you get up in the night, you have to clean your nose 3 times to get him out? Now about 1064. You see how jaundiced your mind could be. The answer is already in the same verse, and yet you fail to notice it. Verse 62 through 64 talks about the promise of God to those believers who believed and feared him. If you read the first line of verse 64, it says, quote, for them, believers, are good tidings in the worldly life and in the hereafter. Then the next line, no change is there in the words kalimat, which could also mean decree of Allah. How simple it is. Again, if it's only the Qur'an that can't be altered, why stand firm upon the Torah and Injil? See 5 verse 68. Why come to me for my reading the before scriptures? If you are in doubt about the Qur'an, that's Qur'an 1094. Why heed Qur'an 4 verse 136? The verse is talking about the words, the decree, the promise of Allah to the believers that they will have good tidings in the worldly life and in the hereafter, and no one can alter that. And to make that very clear, the last line of the verse says, that is the great attainment. What is that great attainment? The words, the decree, the promise of Allah in the first line, good tidings in the world and the hereafter. That is so simple, and yet your jaundiced brain failed to notice. One more time. If it's only the Qur'an that can't be altered, then why quote stand firm upon the Torah and Injil? That's, Qur'an 5:68. Why come to me for my reading the before scriptures if you're in doubt about the Qur'an? That's 1094. Why heed Qur'an 4, verse 136. This is so common sense. The Quran was telling you to stand firm on the law and the gospel because those were revelations from the same God, Allah. It does not say stand firm on the Bible. The essence of the message of Torah and Injil and the Quran is all the same. One God. Come to you. The Quran told the Prophet to go to those people who have the knowledge of the scripture to verify his message. Why? Because the Quran is the confirmation of earlier revelations. Aren't the Torah and Injil the book, the Bible? If not, then where is that Torah? And where is that Injil? And where is that Psalms that the Quran talks of? And what is the before scriptures? You are to what are the before scriptures that you are to go and ask those who have read them if you are in doubt about the Quran? That's again 1094. Or what are the books of Allah? Books of Allah, plural, books of Allah. What are those books that Quran 4:136 are talking about? If it's not the Bible. Good question. Yeah. Oh, I've got to stop this thing here.